Hello and welcome to the today's session, LinkedIn LeadGEN Masterclass, the startup founders success stories. So I have invited one of the professional LeadGEN expert over here to share his experience with us. At the same time, I also invited two the local entrepreneurs, the startup founders who are willing to share their success stories in terms of success stories, so how they reached through the LinkedIn and what are the things they have done and achieved through the LinkedIn. So it's like a knowledge sharing from the LinkedIn expert, and also we're gonna learn how we can create an impact, how we can create something that we are not able to do that through the LinkedIn from a practical entrepreneurs. So this is the main reason we have invited two diverse panel of guest speakers. And once again, guys, thank you for taking time out and being here today. And the people who don't know me, my name is Sharma, founder and chairman of Extreme Asia Internet Solution. And today we're going to learn something really interesting topic about LinkedIn lead generation strategies and hacks, practical hacks. And also, like I said before, the local entrepreneurs, the Sri Lankan entrepreneurs founders, they are willing to share their experience, the life journey case studies with us about how they have achieved through the LinkedIn. As usual, before we jump into the session, just a little housekeeping announcement. If you have any questions while we are having the session, if you have any questions, please take a note, or maybe you can post your questions in your right-hand side chat box. So while we are having the session, maybe I will bring them up during their presentation, and also we also have a time for the question and answer at the end of the event. And for the panelists, guys, once again, welcome. Thank you for joining for the today's session. Now, without any further ado, let me introduce our guest speakers, the today's guest speakers. Here you can see a guy. He's from States. He's Isaac Anderson. He's a professional LinkedIn lead generation expert, and also is an agency founder and educator. And Rehanna Jeffrey from Glittery. She's the CEO of Glittery, and she's an award-winning woman entrepreneur. And again, Mohammed Fawaz, he's the CEO of Curve Up. And these two gentlemen, the entrepreneurs, they are willing to share their LinkedIn journey with us. And also Isaac, he is going to talk about what are the things and what are the most advanced and easiest things that you can do through the LinkedIn in order to grab sales, in order to generate sales, and in order to convert, improve the conversion. And as usual, the today agenda is going to be a bit of formal. Why we are doing, instead of informal, why we are doing it? Because it's all about knowledge sharing, and also it has to be something that personal. The people need to feel a bit relaxed, and we have to make a situation to raise questions where we can get clarified. This session is just nothing. So that's the main reason we are making this event a bit formal. And like I said before, I already gave you the background about our speakers. So without any further ado, I'll start with Isaac. Isaac, could you please give us a short brief about your background, your professional background, and your experience and expertise in LinkedIn? Let's start with
Sure. So thank you for having me on. This is going to be a lot of fun. For everybody watching, it's still dark here. So as the time goes by, you'll see it brighten up, maybe hear some birds chirping. So my name's Isaac, founder of Zico right there. A little bit of I'll do the short version here because stories are so much fun to tell. So a long time ago, I was working at a full service marketing company, and I observed, like I loved SEO, pay-per-click, love all that stuff so much. But I watched firsthand B2B companies, they all the time across the board, they had a really hard time growing. And usually the reason why that they had a hard time growing was not because their product or service was not amazing. Their pain point was getting leads was really expensive or really time consuming. Is there a difference? I don't know. Or targeting was a problem, and no leads turns into no sales, turns into cash flow problems, turns into hiring problems, turns into nobody wants to admit it, but they're like barely making it, right? And I watched that across the board, So I realized one day, we started getting to LinkedIn, I realized, geez, if you're B2B and you know how to find your target market, they're right there. And if you know how to communicate what you do in a relational way, the people that are going to sign the checks are right there. And so that's what kind of got the flip switch for me. And when I went, wow, I totally dig this. I'm a personal guy, not a quantity over quality guy. And I realized that you can get a lot done with just some really solid conversations. So I decided to go niche and focus on exclusively doing LinkedIn and our wheelhouse. Because I mean, there's like hundreds of millions of people on LinkedIn. So lots of ways that you can make money with that many professionals in one place. Our wheelhouse is B2B, high ticket, expensive sales of services or products in a relational selling avenue, right? So we're directly communicating with decision makers at the accounts we want to sell to. So it's a lot of fun. And then if we're too expensive, or if you're too small, or like your company is just brand new and you can't afford to work with us on the service side, then we'll just teach you how to do what we do on the education side. So come into the orbit, have fun, treat people right. That's Zico. There you go.
Sounds really interesting. Thank you so much for your
Yeah.
intro. So again, let's go with Rohana. Hi, Rohana. How are you?
Hi everyone. Hi Sharanyan. Thank you for having me here. I'm the founder CEO of Glitteray. Glitteray is a jewelry brand, but we're predominantly e-commerce based. We were the first online jewelry store that started about 5 years ago, and proud to say that we made path to a lot of other small jewelry businesses to start following us. My business was a hobby, and basically I wanted it to grow into something different, and I looked at raising investment and took part in an accelerator program. And out of about 120 people, I won first runner up to raise a round of funding. So that was a seed round in 2013. Following that, we grew predominantly on cash flows, and we ensured that we were able to obtain a lot of customers through social media, and we have a large social media presence. I would say 90% of our sales is on Facebook and Instagram, locally and internationally. Internationally, we have about 18% coming through social media. And we had a follow-up rounding in 2018, and then a follow-up rounding in 2019, which unfortunately fell short due to the Easter attacks. We were signing on the day the attacks were happening, so that fell through. But all three rounds of funding were actually raised on LinkedIn by networking there. So I'm excited here to share my story with you on how you can build a personal brand and also network your business on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Thank you. That's quite interesting. So since you got your first investment and you outreach to investor through the LinkedIn?
Yes, all three.
All three through the LinkedIn?
Through LinkedIn, yeah.
I think it looks like we have wasted so much of time reaching the investors physically. I mean, this time we have a very great panel. So, I mean, practically we can learn a lot. Again, so coming back to Fawaz.
Thank you, Sharanyan, having here. So basically, I'm Fawaz, founder CEO of a company called Curve Up. So we are into concept of DDE, we call it. So basically, we design, deliver, and engage with training and development programs. So before Curve Up, I had a complete roller coaster, a startup life with a company named Global Tutor. Back in 2013, we started live online tutoring. So now it's live online tutoring, and digital tutoring is on a highest demand. But back in 2012, I started with digital content to all what Global Tutor had. So I'm going to share that with you as well. So Global Tutor had multiple series or multiple ways of having it. So just before Curve Up was born, we just started a company in Singapore called Studila, which again had a different investment ratio, which I'll share. But why I am here to talk or share my entrepreneurial experience connected to LinkedIn. My very first staff, very first person who worked for me was totally hired through LinkedIn. And most of the business international expansion I have done always worked through LinkedIn. Most of the conference I have attended, there's a lot the LinkedIn has to do. So from the first person who worked and the first company, the first client that I got, has a lot to do with LinkedIn in my entire entrepreneurial journey, starting from 2012. So that's one of the reasons that I'm going to share. And thank you very much, Sharanyan, having me with a great practical panel out there. Thank you.
Good. So the first round of introduction about the guest speakers. Like I said before, I think it looks like there are almost 17 people just now joined it. So I will give a short brief why we have a diverse guest panel of speakers. Isaac, he's a professional LinkedIn lead gen expert, and he's having a very vast portfolio about how you can generate leads through LinkedIn, and also he's served for corporates as well as for entrepreneurs. And coming back to Fawaz and Rehana, so they started as an entrepreneur and they outreached, and they are investors through LinkedIn. And also, as Fawaz said, he recruited his first employee through the LinkedIn. So the blend that I'm trying to emphasize here, because when it comes to practical, there are strategies that you need to have a proper LinkedIn profile in order to achieve everything. Of course, there are strategy, there are structure, but without that, still there are people, they have achieved it. If you look at Rihanna profile and Fawaz profile, so they have achieved it without even optimizing it. I mean, I'm not saying the profile is perfect, it's good. We are trying to improve from good to great. So when it comes to Isaac, his profile, if you look at his LinkedIn profile, you will get a perfect idea what he's trying to do and what he's trying to, what kind of audience that he's focusing, and what kind of services that he's offering, value that he's offering for his audiences. So these are the two different type of panel that we have right now. I mean, let's practically, we'll have a informal discussion for the next 20 minutes. It will be a very informal discussion. Then we'll go with a one-on-one constructive question answer. So let me start with Isaac. Isaac, could you please tell us about your the journey? So how did you start it, and what makes you to bring into LinkedIn? Why? What's the reason you started with LinkedIn, and why you choose? Because in LinkedIn there are ways like you can become a sales marketer, you can sell, or you can have an online presence. But why you choose specifically to generate leads, to become a lead gen expert and sharing your knowledge with others, to become a trainer?
I think really the main driver there is it brings me great satisfaction to genuinely help people, to genuinely bring value. And honestly, like that is what business is, right? Money is just a value exchange. And if your goal is to bring value, true value, talking about money isn't weird at all, right? So I used to actually, I would say I hate sales so much. I hate lead gen so much. And then I realized that I just hated selling something stupid, right? I realized that if I was hanging out with my friends who owned businesses and they wanted to like talk about growing their business, I would visit with them about that all day. I would help them out as much as I could. And it felt weird, like giving them any kind of proposal, because it just felt wrong, right? Until I know for sure that my proposal is going to bring them value. And then how does that translate to LinkedIn, right? So that's like what makes me happy. That's what brings my heart alive, is bringing authentic value that's going to bring them, that's going to help them. So if you are on LinkedIn and you've messed around on there, you realize that if you know the people that you can bring value to, you can just find them on LinkedIn. You can find them so easy with targeting. And once we started to dabble in that, and I realized, geez, I know who I bring value to. I know how to find them. There they are. I can talk to them right now. That lit me up, got me excited. And so it started for me with leads, because you have to pay the bills, and you can do it in a way that doesn't feel like dirty or spammy, right? So that's what got me excited personally, and it pays the bills. And then years later, as people kind of come into your network, you actually make some really awesome friends too, and some really awesome like business strategic alliance partners that you would have never made friends with before, because you're in Sri Lanka, I'm in America. We wouldn't have, like so many cool things. So that's what got me That's what hooked my attention. That's what drove me personally, segued into professional. Was that what you were asking?
Yes, exactly. Why did you start, and why specifically that you chose to become a LinkedIn trainer? So that is my question. You explained it. Thank you. Thank you so much about this question for Fawaz. Fawaz, as you say that you have recruited your first employee through LinkedIn, and let's be very honest. So even though you can first, I don't want to say that you told me that you can first. Even your profile is not properly optimized, but you have you have outreached and recruited your first employee through LinkedIn. How did you create that authenticity? Because say even in LinkedIn, like other social media networks, when you outreach them, when you outreach someone, definitely they will look at your profile before they reply you, because they need to understand what kind of person you are, whether do you really have the value and the ability and the capacity in order to get attention from them. So I just wanted to, I'm curious to know about that, because we do have a different type of profile. And since you said you recently started optimizing the profile, how did you create that kind of authenticity? Not just for the recruiter, not just for the particular employee, but you even explained, when I'm talking to you, explain, you outreached your partner, and you have got your co-founder, and you have even meet some people who are abroad to create some education connection, education industry related connection. So can you explain how do you create that authenticity?
Right. Brilliant question. Thank you very much, Sharanyan. So first of all, I'll give you a very quick context about my experience and why I got into LinkedIn. So probably in my early 20s, or like when I was getting into 20s, is where I started getting into LinkedIn. And my first company, even before Global Tutor, is something called as FWZ Online Space. So that immature I was, because just to keep a company name with my name, right? So that is the time that I get into LinkedIn. 2012 is where I got into LinkedIn. So if you see my 2012 and 13, the purpose of LinkedIn is, if most of you out there remember, SlideShare got acquired by LinkedIn. So when you have a LinkedIn account, you can easily have access to SlideShare because of content. And if you are in education or lecturing or edu-tech profession, back then content in SlideShare had a lot to do when early entrant, when LinkedIn acquired, right? So that was the area. But as Sharanyan very correctly said, I was just an observer in LinkedIn in early 2012. I was not even engaging. So there's no much authenticity. But luckily, how I would able to do is, even wherever I post, even if I post it on my personal social media, it would be a little challenging to attract a potential talented people to come on board. So I publish the particular advertisement in Top Jobs, take the link and share it in LinkedIn. So what happens is, anybody who comes into that knows, okay, the particular company is already somewhere profiled, because back then in 2012, something to get into all these paying Top Job site was considered as a preliminary authenticity. So it's not a free site. So that was my preliminary authentication. And then the communication. So throughout until now, definitely the profile is just being optimized, and thanks to Sharanyan with LinkedIn Mastermind. And I am, that's why I said I am more being a learner, also while being a contributor in these particular sessions. So that was the fundamental. The LinkedIn will help me to exhibit and also to reach out to the people. So when I optimized LinkedIn, people reached out to me. But when I went into the LinkedIn, I was able to reach out to the people. And there are people that I went and I have connected and asked, are you looking for jobs? They have not reached me back. So that was the first preliminary observer. But yeah, so keeping it short, I had to validate in other mechanism, but bring back that particular link or connection back to LinkedIn for the audience which LinkedIn had.
So you clearly said earlier, before that, you outreach the people after optimizing your profile. I mean, after fixing your the minor issues, the people are reaching you out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's the power of LinkedIn. I mean, in the offline marketing, what we do, we used to sell product. Selling, when it comes to selling, it's about adding value, isn't it? So giving a value, solving problems. That's all about selling. But in LinkedIn, so most of us, even though in my early days, I do have the same issues. Like LinkedIn is the platform where I can outreach the people who can buy my services and solutions. So simply what I did I'm talking about my experience in 2012. I used to send an inbox message saying, oh, I'm providing digital marketing service. I can offer this kind of discount. Would you like to buy? Or click the link and redeem the discount code and go and buy. So which means the people during the time, I don't have an awareness. I don't know exactly how to communicate, because the way that I communicate through the Facebook, same strategy I did, same mistake I did in LinkedIn. But after 1 year only, I realized LinkedIn is not another Facebook. I realized that's a professional network. It's flooded up with the academic level people. There's a way to communicate. There's an art to communicate. So likewise, so I just shared my experience with you guys. Oh, again, with Rehana, since you already explained about your journey, you outreach your investor through the LinkedIn. But the same question like for us, how did you get your first response, and how did you felt it? I mean, how did you create that interaction? Because most of the investors, they don't check their emails. They rarely check out, rarely respond unless you have a good profile, you have a good authenticity or authentic profile. But what kind of message, what kind of the conversation, the title that you have created? Because we are really curious to know. LinkedIn is all about creating values.
So first, I would just like to share a small background about you. So I come from a very humble beginning. So not from a part of the society that, the fluent or the investors or, those who are part of the startup business is from. So I had to find my way, into that part of the society to raise rounds of funding, to meet the right people, so that it'll in order help me to kind of, make my vision come true. So that was what was in my head. And the only way I can get to that was social media. So that's where I started my journey. So Facebook and LinkedIn were two tools that kind of really, took me from here and pushed me right up there. But that doesn't mean it happened overnight. So with LinkedIn, how it worked was obviously my profile is it's even still uncompleted. Like there's still a lot of, blank spaces left on LinkedIn. But what I did do is I started following like the right people and started building an authentic feed by sharing very relevant articles or sharing very relevant information and liking relevant people, and started having an engagement and conversation so that people start paying attention to comments and likes and whatever you're interacting, right? So that sort of brought attention to my conversations. I kept them quite relevant to what has been discussed. So that was one thing I did to sort of build credibility. And the second thing that I did is when I started looking for investors was to sort of put my products out there on LinkedIn as well, and have my initial customer reviews to get shared on that. And then I came across the Lankan Angel Network venture engine competition on LinkedIn, and I applied for it. But like I said, the first round of funding happened because I had already built sort of a credibility on LinkedIn by sharing things about jewelry and commenting on people that I don't even know, industry experts. So I would go and find them and comment on their post to make it look like I'm engaged, So I built a credibility like that at the very start. And how did they respond to messages? I think I can be honest. I think in a way being a girl helps, because people do open. I've never had no one not open the message, but after opening the message, I've had a lot of people not responding to it, but they do open it. I think maybe being a girl helps. So that's fun. You can try maybe changing the profile picture. But jokes apart, I think keeping it very crisp and to the point helps them. So I generally link it to something that I'm looking to get done. So if it's an investment, I'll immediately try and link a copy of it online so that they know what I'm talking about. So they'll go immediately to it and find me. And the third thing that I did was I started publishing articles in the local newspapers about the company and about the work I'm doing, and build credibility like that. And I would share that link to them. So that spoke volumes before they even responded back.
So as far as I know, based on the audience, so when it comes to LinkedIn, like I said before, the academic level and the professional who are using the LinkedIn, they always expect kind of at least a basic respect, and also the profile need to be stand out from the typical social media. And so whenever we do session, we used to gather feedback from the participants. From the last session, so I gathered feedback from our participants. The participant says, so they really want to know, because they are new to LinkedIn, they want to know exactly, is it something okay for the local entrepreneurs or maybe an employee who are working for a company? And they really practically, they need to know whether it's suitable for the students. Of course, in my answer, because Isaac is going to explain about something really advanced, in my opinion, yes, it's all about your purpose, and you need to understand why you want to get into LinkedIn and what are the things that you are trying to achieve through the LinkedIn. So like I said before, it's all about perspective. So coming back to the topic, hereafter, it is going to be really formal. The questions for Isaac. Isaac, could you please tell us about the lead conversion strategies? How do you prospect? How do you find your prospect? Are you finding prospect for yourself or behalf of your customer? And what kind of tools, what are the strategies that you're using it? I mean, something really basic would be fine.
I don't want to be a time hog here, so if you need to stop me, just slap me, okay? There's so many really good takeaways here. So I'll talk really fast, maybe write them down or do the replay. So like you said, it is all about, you need to know your goals. If you don't know your goals, you are not going to go anywhere. You're going to be throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks and hoping what works. You'll waste time and you can't buy any more time. So you need to know where you're going, right? You need to know, if you're doing sales, if you're doing B2B sales, it's easier to prospect people online because LinkedIn's B2B. So if you sell a shampoo bottle, LinkedIn is not going to be the best place for you because no one wants to buy a shampoo on LinkedIn. So if you're selling B2B on LinkedIn, this is a kind of in a nutshell what I would do. Okay. So number one is you need, this is super critical. And it sounds like it's not related to LinkedIn, but it is. You need to know your ammo before targeting, which is maybe just a way too American phrase because we're big into guns. But ammo is an acronym for audience, message, offer. So LinkedIn is super powerful because of targeting and the ability to communicate with people. But if you don't know your audience, it doesn't matter. If you don't know your message, it doesn't matter. If you don't know your offer, it doesn't matter. And when I'm doing a sales call for our company, 8 out of 10 times, I'll tell someone, we cannot work with you yet because you don't know your audience, message, or offer. And so I'm telling you that because if you're wanting to do sales on LinkedIn, if you don't know your audience, message, offer, it's not going to work, or it's going to be really inefficient, and you're going to get cynical because you're going to waste so much time, right? So make sure you know your ammo before you target audience, message, offer. So that's huge. The second thing I would say is, if you want to do something on the cheap and it's fast, there's two kind of quick hacks where you could look for people who are actually asking for help on LinkedIn. And again, this is all in a sales context. You can go to the newsfeed and search for posted content, and people will say, I'm looking for recommendations for graphic design, or I'm looking for recommendations for copywriting. And so you can do that and mess with it. You can't break search. So go and try doing search keywords, looking for recommendations, like 2 different brackets, use Boolean. That's maybe another thing, Boolean. So do that. That's one easy way. Another one is going to be, you can go to the jobs section, which I feel like no one pays attention to. It's that little briefcase in the nav menu. And there's actually a section in there for contract jobs. And contract jobs is essentially, if you're a startup or a freelancer, that's right in your wheelhouse. So that's another really easy way, and they're telling you exactly what you want. ProFinder is another great way to get leads because people are asking. You have to get verified. There's an application there. There's a manual review. I got rejected the first time that I applied, so don't feel bad if you do. That's again another thing. Just so start there. If you're wanting, no, if you're to the point where you are ready to really turn up the juice and put people through like a funnel where you know your audience, message, offer, and you know it's going to work, I would highly suggest, if you can afford it, to do Sales Navigator. And I know cost is sometimes an issue. I don't know if it's the same globally. Here, if you pay monthly, it's $80 a month. And the reason why people pay for Sales Nav in sales is there's a hidden cost on LinkedIn called time. And SalesNav has so much more advanced search filters that you save a lot of time. And that's really a pain point when you're in startup mode, is that you don't have enough time, you wear too many hats. So people pay for SalesNav to save time because of the advanced search. They, if you have SalesNav, you also need to master Boolean, period. And about a month ago, LinkedIn on the free and premium version, they did an update in search to where you can only use 5 operators in search now. And so if you're really good at doing search and you do like a long string where it's like, I want to talk to CEO or president or whatever, not this X, Y, and Z. If you don't know what Boolean is, Google it. You're all smart enough to figure it out. But once you reach 5 on a free or premium account, it says no search results. And that's really misleading, because it's not that there are none, it's that you're being too specific, and LinkedIn goes, they're not telling you, but they only let you do 5. Oh, so you, again, if you can pay for it, if you can afford SalesNav, and if you got your ammo, just the targeting's better, hands down. Another really good practice there is to create a do not contact list. So if we're doing an onboarding for our clients, we'll say, give us all of your client list, put it in like a Google sheet. We'll look for them, for their company page on LinkedIn. And then we'll save all of those companies to an account list called clients. And then we'll have another account list called like do not, like maybe exclude, because there's like, they just, you don't want to talk to them, or maybe you already have a deal, like you already have a proposal out for them. You don't want to keep prospecting them. And it's much easier to revise what you're doing moving forward by just adding your new clients to that bucket and using your same search. Another good one here, and I'll stop here because I don't want to be a hog. Another really good one is LinkedIn does not make it easy for you to measure your efforts if you're doing organic outreach. It's like, I love Google Ads, analytics. I'm a total geek with that. I love it. But if you're doing outreach on LinkedIn, they don't give you anything. They don't give you connection acceptance rates, engagement rates, nothing, zero, zilch, nada. So it's like, how do you know if you're doing a good job? I don't know. I guess I'm going to guess. What should you measure? I don't know. And so for us, it was a major pain point, because we need to create reports for clients, because they're like, what have you been doing? You know, how are we doing? I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to make something from scratch. So what we ended up doing is using tags and lead lists as a way to record what we've been doing and to categorize where people are at in our funnel. So, and again, that's one thing also where it's a sales nav feature you can use. There are some like extensions and other tools that would do tagging, but they come and go. So I'll stop. Sorry.
Yeah, I have a question about the sales navigator. Of course, having a sales navigator will, we can get more data, accurate data. We can narrow down to get the data that what we need. But is it really mandatory to have a sales navigator for a sales marketer? Or is it really okay to go ahead with a third-party tool, not relying on LinkedIn? So what's your personal opinion about it?
Well, I think there's 2 different things going on there. Number one is you pay for Sales Navigator for the search results, which you can only do. A third-party tool is not going to help you get better LinkedIn search results. So the third-party tools, most people use them either for a tag, or they want to do automation or that kind of thing as an assist. And this might be kind of countercultural. I prefer to use what's built in natively, because I've just seen so many tools come and go. Sometimes you might get in trouble. I totally get there's a pain point where there's this desire to save time, and that's usually why. But you pay for SalesNav mostly for advanced search, and then the ease of actually, there's so much more that I didn't get to talk about even. So like like, for example, you save interested leads to a lead list. And then LinkedIn says, hey, you want to know specific updates about just that group? I'll tell you. And then you don't have to deal with, you've got 10,000 connections, but you only care about the notifications from 50. So does that answer your question?
So let me recap what you said. The first one is all about the goal, that you need to have a reason why you are in LinkedIn. So as far as I know, most of the people, first they will start with without setting a goal. But in future, if you are willing to go ahead with LinkedIn, you need to know your goal and why you are in LinkedIn. What are the things that you're trying to achieve is really matter that you emphasized. You stress that point very seriously. The second one that you say, the perspective. So between why are we using LinkedIn and what are we trying to achieve, and also what are the tools that we can use. And you also briefed about the sales navigator instead of going with third-party tools. Yes, I even tried a sales navigator because it's for the sales generating prospect. Yes, of course, that's the best way where we can download CSV with a well narrowed down searches. But for the when you grow up from the sales marketer person to C-level person, then it's the personality, just having an identity. So then
you don't need it. I think it's why it's called Sales Navigator. You're right on.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the second level, it's all about the influencer level. So which means, as Fawaz said, we don't want to reach the people will come and reach us. So that is the second level, the ultimate level, the influencer level. So anyway, that's a great point that you have shared with us. The question for Rehana. So Rehana, could you please tell us a bit further about the LinkedIn, especially the LinkedIn communication strategies? You already explained about what kind of tone and what type of messages that you have maintained when you're communicating with your investors. But again, the LinkedIn is a professional network when we are communicating through the LinkedIn. So after all, it's a professional, it's a social network. But again, there's a standard way that we need to communicate through the LinkedIn. And also, since you mentioned that you outreach to your investor, because I'm coming in a different direction. The question that you answered, the earlier question that you answered, it's something different. This is something different because we really need to know how did you communicate it. We don't need to know the exact name or brands, but the way that you communicated, can you explain to us? Because we have a lot of startup entrepreneurs over here and also the freelancers. This will be an eye opener for them.
So the way of communication, I would say, obviously, you have to maintain a professional language and a professional tone and keep it to a point. So, with other forms of social media, it can be a little bit casual, like, hi, how are you? So you don't do that. So you address them with their names and, introduce yourself, and then also give like a very quick snippet of what your business in, and always link them out so that they have more. Because I find that when you try to have a conversation on LinkedIn, it's very abrupt. They don't often check their LinkedIn and then they lose attention, right? So, but if you link them out to a website of a product or service that you're providing, or give them an email address or get their email address, what I usually do is I would tell them, for example, like let's say, oh, hi Sharanyan, this is Rehana from LeadGEN. I'm reaching out to share with you a new project that I've just launched. And can I just please have your email address? Right? So they'll just respond back with an email address. So that's kind of the communication that I do first, and then I take it from there.
So which means you're telling us there should be an etiquette that we have to follow when it comes to
Definitely there's an etiquette to follow.
So this is where we fail. I mean, most of even myself in 10 years back, I failed. I started with the, hey, so do you have any requirement for the SEO? Do you have any requirement for the backlinks? This is how I started. So simply they will block us. So, I mean,
yes.
It's all
or they don't respond back.
Yes, and simply they will block us. And it's all about the lessons that we learned. So that's the main reason, guys, especially for the participant. This is the main reason that I have invited the practical entrepreneurs who achieve things through the tiny things through the LinkedIn. Because of course, we can learn a lot from the professionals, and also we really need to know something really practical from the people who are in the same circle, within the same radius. Coming back to the topic. So this question for Fawaz. Fawaz, can you tell us about your daily routine? Which means in our personal life, of course, we have daily rituals, like an early morning wake up. Are you really doing that? No. Okay, so we have our own daily routine and rituals. Likewise, for the social media, yes, there are people professional. Sometimes they use automation, like Agora Pulse, the tools they're using it. They will schedule it. But for you, are you using an automation? Are you really having a routine as when it comes to social media, especially LinkedIn? publishing.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Sharan. Right. Especially when I engage, I would have to connect with what Shahan and you said as well. So probably I did not know all these so-called best practices back then, right? So I am also getting to know a lot of best practices, but always I have seen results when I optimize the best practices. But in terms of routine, what I previously did as a routine is usually when I start my work, uh, whenever like I was running a global tutor, the first thing I check is LinkedIn, right? For a couple of reasons. The reason number one being, for me, LinkedIn is always a trend analyzer for me. So I see what has been as in development, learning and development aspect. It has a lot to do with professional environment. Although because empowerment has a lot to do with community and community leadership. But when you're in learning and development environment, the industry that I operate, it has always a lot to do with academics, education, and all these like the formal way of education. So I used to get a lot of trends. I usually check LinkedIn as the first thing, and also the forums that I participate. Right. So there are back then, if you see, there are groups. But if you see compared to all the other groups in other social media, probably LinkedIn is the least active one, right? But you have a lot more to take it, because why least active is there are more people like us who doesn't contribute, right? So back then I was not a contributor, right? I just used to be an observer. So I think my routine changed, was changing, I would say, when I become a contributor, because I also look at timeline, where people read and where should I post, and where is my target audience, and the geographical difference. And especially when I come in, whereas I had one of my first international client for schools or B2B is based in Australia, Adelaide state. So if Adelaide, if you remember, if you know, Adelaide has a lot to do with a lot of distance learning. You don't get a lot of expert in the state of Adelaide, right? So from there, I used to communicate early morning, 4:30 a.m. Sri Lankan time, to get them to be on the communication there, all on LinkedIn chat. So the routine differently changes if you know your custom audience, or if you know the audience for the day or for the season. Because most of us in service industry develop services adapting to new seasons, or create new services for the specific markets. So yes, routine is definitely not specific, but generally I used to have a practice of looking LinkedIn as the first thing to start my professional day, I would say.
Okay, so which means you are telling you have a daily schedule when it comes to social media, and also you stressed about the audience. So I did like to ask a better clarity from in a professional perspective from Isaac. So the audience. So in LinkedIn, for the especially when it comes to sales and marketing, they just have just one audience. They have just one goal. They need to get more and more prospect. They want to convince and convert as a customer. But for the certain stages like a C-level, or maybe an influencer, or maybe a person who are doing a training like you. So what kind of audience? Of course, I know you already explained. We need to have different type of audience, but can you explain us the main three type of audience, like in terms of stakeholder perspective, maybe the customer perspective, or maybe you have a different type of audience only for the influence purpose?
So are you saying like the different types of people on LinkedIn that you throughout your career or the life cycle of your business want to bring into your network for
Yes,
value? Okay.
because
Yeah, totally.
because we have different needs and wants when it comes to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Sometimes we want to learn from others, so that's a
Yeah.
different audience, and we want to sell our service or product to someone, or maybe we want to get a connection, maybe a recommendation from a different type of audience. So what is your preferred one and why?
So a lot of it here is about whoever you're talking to, what's the perceived value.
True.
So if you are a salesperson and you want to sell to the president of a company and they see that you're a salesperson, there's like no perceived value there, even if your product is great. But if you are the owner of that company instead of the salesperson, the perceived value changes, right? Just because of who you are. And that's part of what you were talking about earlier with what your profile communicates. but it's all about perceived value. We all have needs, but most people make the mistake of focusing on what's in it for me instead of what's in it for them. So there's like that old acronym, right? WIFT, what's in it for them. Most people do it backwards and they focus on themselves instead of what's in it for them. When you first start a company, it's really important that you surround yourself on LinkedIn and off LinkedIn with people who are potentially going to buy from you. That's just opportunity, right? So you want to surround yourself with potential leads. You also want to surround yourself with other business owners so you don't get discouraged. That's another group I would totally add to my network. Referral partners, huge, right? I'm friends with my competitors because we learn from each other, you know? And then as the owner, like you were saying earlier, as you transition out of owners who's doing sales to running the company more, it doesn't make sense for you to keep surrounding yourself with potential clients because you don't do sales, right? So there, the need for surrounding yourself with the right person remains. The value that they can bring you changes, the value that you bring changes. But as you transition out of doing sales, your focus is going to be more like I need strategic alliances at work with other companies and for 100 other reasons. Or maybe even you are, maybe you're not C-level, maybe you're not the owner, maybe you just got promoted to like the director of marketing. You need to know other people in your industry. There are so many other people that you need to add other than potential clients. It just changes as your career changes and as your company grows. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Even though in our participants, so if you look at the participants, yes, there are people, they have different type of needs and wants, and also they are in the different domains, different verticals. And some of them, they already aware about what we are discussing. Some of them, most of them are learning from us. So likewise, we are learning from the competitors and why we need to follow and why we need to at the same level of business people, same level of the people who are handling the specialization, because where we can share our knowledge and also meantime we can learn from them. Because I strongly believe each and every human being having a unique value and power. So what I think that others can't do, maybe they can learn from me, they can learn from me, and meantime I can learn from them. So look at our participants. There are people, they may they are here with different purposes. Some of them, they really want to learn from us. They want to get an experience how Rehana, how Fawaz became this level, and what kind of journeys they have done through the LinkedIn. How did they reach that level? And there are people, they really want to know exactly what is happening here. And the perspective, it's all about the perspective. If you put everything together in LinkedIn, it's all about your goal and your perspective. Okay.
Well, they say a goal without a plan is just a wish.
Okay. So the question for so meantime, for the participants, guys, in case if you have any questions, please on your right hand side there's a chat box. You can write down your questions. I will bring it to the panelists. And also we have a separate session for the question and answer as well. So my question for Rehana, Fawaz, apart from your daily routine, what are the influencer strategies? Are you trying to convert your offline leads to online? Are you trying to transform your offline connections? Say an example, you and me, we know each other, but how are we communicating in LinkedIn? It's something different. So which means sometimes I used to refer my noun contacts to you. Sometimes you also refer few of your noun contacts who are looking for my services. But we don't do that thing in offline. But when it comes to professional, so it's adding another additional value for us. So can you explain how are you transforming your business, your offline business to online? What are the steps that you have taken so far? Especially the new startup name called Curve.
Yeah. Thank you, Charan. It's actually again very apt time of the hour question. So how I do that is, now the market that we operate, or it can be learning and development, is not something that you go and buy off the shelf. It's not something that you decide to like deal with a learning and development company just just without any much details. If you want a e-commerce service or you want a different service, you go and check what are the services out there and you just take a purchase. But learning and development, any organization or any individual expose a lot of information to the learning and development company or the company who works with, right? So it takes a lot of credibility, trust, and also the confidence that we can deliver. You call it outcome. So the moment a company can meet the expected outcome. So in that industry that we operate, reference and also referral goes a very long way. And we are mostly based on relationship market. Right now, if I know you, it's very easy to communicate to someone that who you knows. If I don't know, the matter that, okay, I send you this, and also I call Sharanyan and say, Sharanyan, that I saw that you are mutually connected. So can I have an introduction to them, right? So there's high chance if I send a request, it can be offline, same as offline to online, right? So anybody we don't know, even we tend to do the same thing. You get a random call saying that I am XYZ, I can offer this to you. We mostly treat it as the call that we get from a bank to sell a credit card, right? But the moment I get a heads up, you know what, I have shared your number with this person. This person might call you. It's something, it's the appointment, like you know that you want a credit card, right? Something like that. So I believe the reference and referral works a long way, and something that I also practice in offline market a lot. So again, tapping to a few international experience that I have had, how LinkedIn has helped is, so very quick specific example rather than theoretically telling. So I got an opportunity to work with NAB of Australia. That's a National Australian Bank. So I got an opportunity to do a small session to them while I was on a visit to Australia as a GSCA, and also we were participating at Tasmania's AIESX, so Australian Higher Education Conference. So while I was doing that, I got connected to someone in the conference who is connected to someone at NAB, but that happened through LinkedIn. So, and just being very frank, guys, I know most of you also would connect with me. I don't spell like non-Sri Lankan name better. So probably if I myself and Isaac Anderson on the call, so we said, you know what, I'm Isaac Anderson so-and-so, I would have hardly got the spelling right on LinkedIn to search you. So most of the time when I'm on international conference, what I do is take my phone, open the LinkedIn and give it to them. Hey, just type your name, let's get connected, right? And then take it up from there so that I know that I don't miss. And most of these people don't carry the cards much. The people that I can even name. So I got connected to Alex Reed. Alex Reed put in touch with a personality in NAB. So why I'm saying this is, when you know somebody who knows the person that whom you need to get connected, goes a long way. So I call it a relationship marketing. I think Sharanyan, the LinkedIn also that accommodates very well, because it shows you who are your mutual connection. And rather than the Facebook or any other social media, it specifically tells Sharanyan can introduce to so-and-so people. It also provokes me, right? So I think that's one of the thing it works. So this is why I personally believe you reach and you get connected with the right people, so that the right people will get connected to you. Is some basic mantra that I believe in LinkedIn. Yes, Sharanyan, hope I did some justice to the answer that you want.
Agreed. I agree with you. So it's all about the connection and the way that we communicate, and also when it comes to LinkedIn, getting an endorsement and also referred by some through the mutual connection works very well, because I experienced in even though getting leads and also getting an exposure through a recommendation always works through LinkedIn. Okay, so now we have a question from one of our participants, especially for Rehana. So Rehana, I'm very new to LinkedIn. Before COVID-19, I planned to try to be a professional marketer in different country and planned my LinkedIn for it. After COVID-19, need to be an entrepreneur, family person, does need to change my LinkedIn to generate sales. So it's all about your personal branding. I think you are asking question about the personal branding. So as requested, this question to for Rehana. Rehana, can you explain about bit further about the personal branding when it comes to LinkedIn personal branding? So what are the strategies? What are the things that you need to focus? And also if you can associate your question, your answer with the particular question, that would be really great for us.
Thanks, Ishan, for the question. So I think I mean, looking at what you've said, you've gone from a professional marketer to an entrepreneur. So that's a career change there. And that needs to kind of be highlighted on your LinkedIn or any other professional platform. It's important, especially in a country like Sri Lanka, because, we more than thinking of brand names, we always think about the brand owner, right? So when you think of like Hamidias, we think of, Fauzal Hamid. If you think of, uh, any brand, we think of the owner. So it's on top of mind for Sri Lankans. So it's important that you build a brand name for yourself on LinkedIn uh, under your own name, and also to create a separate LinkedIn page for your business as well, so that you can share relevant information on both platforms. And you can also then get your audience to, sort of grow in both the pages. So it's important to definitely, change the perception if you are jumping careers.
Yeah, thank you. And answering to Hassan, the corporates, when it comes to corporates, say an example, if it is a ABCD bank, the bank having a corporate background, which means director, there are directors, there are board of directors, investors, there are a lot of people. But when it comes to entrepreneur and startup, it's always just one person, because a brand that always a person who has started. This is how the personal mind and the personal brand works when it comes to startup and founder. So an example, in my company, I'm the face of my brand. Likewise, uh, if you're doing a career changes, in a major changes, that you need to be very careful and switching often in your career through the LinkedIn, that will affect your recruitment process. Say an example, if you're changing your career every 6 months, because if you're applying for a job, immediately the recruiters, they will immediately check your LinkedIn profile. So when they scan your name through Google, even though you have a blog, but your LinkedIn profile will come first. So if they go through your LinkedIn profile, they will understand you are constantly changing, like every 1 year you're changing. So which means the score, recruitment score will be very poor. Why? Because they will think like, even though if they are offering a package, high chances you may seek another opportunity. So before you go for a career change, just think twice, a general advice. Okay, we have another question to Fawaz. Do you think LinkedIn important or useful for all professional field? Please explain. I think we can go ahead with the question answer within 5 minutes. So this is the last question for Isaac. Isaac, can you explain your top 3 LinkedIn activities every week that you do? Top 3?
Sorry, top 3 what?
Top 3 important activities that you do in LinkedIn. A great example, what kind of content that you will publish on LinkedIn?
Okay. So again, our wheelhouse is really specific for B2B sales.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different initiatives that people have going on. So I'll share mine with you, but it's not going to be blanket statements. You have to do these things to be successful. I'll tell you what we do and why they're important for us. So I want money in the bank, right? I want to retire. I want my kids to have pants that fit, So every day you should be sending connection requests every day. That's number 1. Number 2, you should be following up with your network. It's so easy to not do both because it's just the consistency is tough. It takes an emotional energy to start that conversation. Sometimes at the end of the day, because we do this for other companies, I'm just like, oh, I'm so exhausted because you've talked to so many people. But it's important that you're diligent about not dropping the ball. Just in the morning, crank them out. Send 5 or 10 connection requests, 5 or 10 follow-ups with people. And then the third thing would be, that would be in rank order of importance. So get the connections, have the dialogue, and then I would put sharing content as a third option. Because if I go to my newsfeed, I usually, now don't get angry, I usually don't care about what's in there unless I know the person that shared it. So if you are sharing content, you better hope that the people that are following you care about you. It's going to do a lot more with them, with you staying top of mind with them and then pausing and not just scrolling on. So those would be my top 3, and that's why.
Again, you're stressing the same point, like the perspective, your goal, and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. I think we can jump into the question and answer. The time is over. So we get a question through the chat box. So meantime, we can ask questions from the participants as well. So guys, we have only 18 minutes, 15 minutes more. If you're asking question, please follow these rules. I mean, be very specific and also be very constructive about your questions, and also point your preferred speaker. Say an example, if you want to ask a question from Anderson, I said, just ask the question like it's just one, because you have to give chance for others as well. Don't add so many questions. So we can start the question right away. So there's a question for Isaac. How can I leverage LinkedIn as a realtor? I mean, it's very specific.
That's a good question. Can I ask a follow-up if you have the ability to type, because there's 2 different buckets there of realtors, right? Commercial and residential, because there'd be 2 different strategies there, really, right? Because commercial real estate would be B2B sale, residential would be more of a B2C, business to
It
consumer.
looks like it's a very broad question.
It's a great question. B2B. So you're doing commercial. That's great. So then what I would do, oh man, okay, you could geek out about this a lot. You're looking for an account. Oh, sorry, one more thing. So there's a hashtag. Okay. So you're basically looking for, if you're doing commercial real estate, you're looking for an account that wants to buy, right? You're looking for a company who's in a position to buy. And so from there, you need to identify what are the types of, like tell me about them. What's the employee headcount? Have they been posting jobs? Are they hiring? That kind of thing. And so if you can find those accounts on LinkedIn and then find the owners of those accounts, you just have to say, hey, I do commercial real estate. You guys are hiring. That's awesome and exciting. Are you ready to move yet? Are you looking to move into a bigger building? Not yet? Totally cool. When you're ready next year, I'm your guy, right? So, and as quickly as you can, get that conversation off of LinkedIn onto phone or email, or go to them in person. Because I've talked to thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of people on LinkedIn, and I remember the people like this that I've seen in person. So if you're doing commercial realty, it's easier to find the owners on LinkedIn, but see if you can swing by, make an excuse. Hey, I'm in your town. I'm going to be driving nearby your building on Tuesday. Can I please bring you a coffee and just say what's up? I'm tired of COVID. I want to get out of the house. Can we do that? Anyway, that's what I would do. If you're doing residential real estate, it's a little bit different. I would probably go for referral partners there. So find lenders and get them to be your referral partner, that kind of thing.
Okay, so as you said, 20% of what we read, 80% always what we see. So that will create a memory. What you said is guys, we can start the question. If anyone wanted to ask any question from the speakers, please go ahead. Yeah, we'll go ahead. We'll go with the questions, the chat box question once again, once we get something from live.
I think Sharanyan, there was a question about all the professionals and mistake.
Yeah, so for us, what we do normally, we will give chance for 3 people to ask questions in live.
Okay.
Then we will from the comment box. Otherwise, the comment box, it'll get rolled.
Okay.
So guys, any questions you can ask. Just make sure point the particular person and you can clarify your questions. And meantime, what happened yesterday, day before yesterday, one of my customer, he's from Canada and he's having a social media platform. He's running a SaaS company, which means where you can, like a Agora Pulse and Content Studio, so where you can schedule your social media post. So what he did, he requested me, Sharanyan, is there any other blockers in where they can work remotely? So what I did, simply, I just posted the message on LinkedIn, and immediately I got, within 24 hours, I got around 37 applications I just simply filtered only the best 6, the people who already responded, provided portfolio. And then I just passed only the 5 best candidates for the particular the HR brand manager. And then what happened? So they did a Zoom interview within 3 hours, and they finally selected one Sri Lankan. And for them, normally they are paying around 3,000 to 3,500 for the part-time blocker. But what they did for her, it's just an 850 for just part-time job. 850 in LKR, it's like a 1.5 lakhs for her. It's a good, decent amount. See, and make an impact. I'm in a process to scale that stuff, especially I can connect our people to the global market where remotely they can work during this situation. So likewise, we can create impact rather than just checking and learning and sharing things. Do something, that's okay. If you're failing, that's completely fine, but don't give up. Do something. If you're failing, learning and repeat, that's fine. Okay, guys, do you have any questions? And there's a question for Anderson. What are the strategies that add value in posting a post on LinkedIn, especially hashtag? As I think, yeah, Anderson, if you would like to take this question, yes, of course.
Sure, and if anybody else wants to piggyback off of what I'm about to say, that's totally cool. So a couple thoughts on hashtags and content marketing. So LinkedIn does not aggregate different ways that it's spelled. And so since we're kind of an international audience here, keep in mind there are different ways to spell the same word, and sometimes they're both accurate. So I would suggest before you commit even to the hashtag, do it like you can do a search, do the hashtag search for what you're looking at. It'll tell you the followers, and you can kind of see the engagement. So do that first to make sure that it's worth your time. And then from there, it's really, the algorithm is always changing. And so I'll say this now, but just keep that in mind. It's one of those things where sometimes you feel like you're chasing your tail. The things that usually stay the same is, so pick the hashtag. It should be relevant with what you do and what your initiatives are. And then obviously content marketing 101 should be good, right? It should be worth the time to have put it together. But the way that LinkedIn tends to make it go farther now is engagement. I mean, that's just kind of social media platforms right now, is they're about engagement. So if you can word your content in a way that elicits engagement, then LinkedIn's going to show it more. And then with the hashtag, the kind of goal there, the big goal hashtag is trending in, right? So if you follow a hashtag, it'll say, like this hashtag, this has been trending in this hashtag, or I'm connected with Joe and Joe's post has been trending in this hashtag. And so those notifications tend to put more eyeballs on your content. So it's kind of like, make sure that you're using the right hashtag, make sure that it matches what you're after. Maybe end it with a question so that people are prompted to be like, yeah, I need to contribute to the comments, that kind of thing. And then from there, you can get more views once the notifications are triggered, the trending in. Does that help? Anybody else have any awesome thoughts on that?
Fawaz, would you like to add anything about the same questions? Or there's another question about the premium, the LinkedIn premium. If anyone having a LinkedIn premium, I think this would be an ideal question for you guys. Otherwise, I will leave it to Anderson to answer the question. So whether it's really important to have a premium profile.
Just a very quick addition, Sharanyan. I have not continuously used LinkedIn Premium, but initially when I used LinkedIn Premium was whenever the LinkedIn gives you a free promo for upgrade of 1 month, right? So I had used that, and it has given me a difference, especially in the B2B, right? Not really on a B2C, because especially on in-mail functionalities like in-mail, if you really know whom you need to get connected, but who is not in your network, right? If the difference between, and you are reaching a different horizon, as Sharanyan said, so I have your ecosystem built. If you are an industry professional, have your industry professional, can be a competitor, contributor, stakeholders, everybody builds. So most of the time you have a common personalities in between. So for me, features like in-mail, whenever I upgraded to premium, is where I need to connect to and exclusively with someone who is much far away from my connected community is where my premium has helped me, but very, very limited. That's my thought about it. But if constructed way is done right, even your normal profile can scale you up to premium. But if you really know your purpose, premium will be definitely helpful. Yeah.
Thank you, Fawaz. So there's another question for Isaac. What kind of content works on LinkedIn?
Content marketing is not really our wheelhouse, but we would take content and use it. And so I'm going to maybe put a little twist on that for the publishing strategy instead of type of content, because I feel like the type of content, that's up to you. You know, you need to know your clients, or you need to know who, you need to know what your clients are after, right? Or whoever, you need to know your audience. My suggestion would be, instead of just relying on the hopes, like, look at this screen is tiny. When you connect with somebody, you automatically follow each other. So once you have 1,000 connections, you're following 1,000 people, and so is everybody else. So this tiny little screen, I don't want my amazing content to hopefully make it on this tiny screen when I know exactly who I want to see it, right? So what I would suggest is, if you have a really well done piece of material and you know exactly who you want to send it to them via messaging, because you're going to get a lot more views from the right people. So that's a little bit of a different spin, but so the type of content changes. Video was hot last year. Video went gangbusters if you did video. Now video's cooled down. I tend to get more views on an image now than videos. It'll change in 6 months. So keep doing a variety of awesome content that matters to your target audience. But my suggestion would be, is if it's really targeted, send it through messaging in a way that feels right. Like, if you would be okay with receiving the message, send it.
Thank you, Anderson. So LinkedIn it's all about influencing your target audience rather than just pushing them to buy your product. So if you have a perfect content marketing strategy, so you can influence your audience. People will ask you to buy your product rather than you go and promote your product. That's all about inbound marketing. And there's another question from Alejandro. How to find people that are looking for recommendations on LinkedIn groups without having to scroll down for ages? Anyone would like to take this question?
Can I put a link in the newsfeed? Or sorry, can I put a link in the chat so you can just do that? Can I do that real quick?
Yeah, of course, that would be fine.
Okay. And then everybody can copy paste it. Okay, hang on one second.
So meantime, guys, if you have any questions, please always, you can turn on your microphone. You can ask in live.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to throw it in there. We'll see if it grabs the whole link.
Okay.
Hi guys. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Sound and louder.
Yeah. Hi. I'm Upul. So I need to know. So if we are just a bit new to the platform and we want to start doing digital marketing for a new brand, so what, like, if I say 3 major points we should focus on when starting a brand new digital marketing campaign on LinkedIn?
Can you point out your question, whom you want to answer?
Yep. To Isaac. Yeah.
It's true, and I think that Rahana and Fawaz would have some really great insight here too.
Yeah.
I would say the process is usually, if someone's going to check you out, they need to know you, like you, trust you. So have a company page so that you look like, if you're a new business, you should be an actual business. So set up a company page for the sake of trust. I don't think you need to focus a ton on content on your company page. Just make sure it exists so that they know you're for real. Your profile content should match the company page. That's important, just to make it look like you have your stuff together. And then there's that animal thing I was talking about earlier. You need to know if it's a new business, it's going to be tough because you don't know usually, right? Unless you are leaving a career and starting your own thing, but you need to know your audience. You need to know your message. You need to know your offer. If you know that, jump on LinkedIn, talk to the right people, have your profile set up, your company page set up for the sake of trust, and then just go for it. Like, just, yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, thank you, Isaac. So can we get it from Rehana? What's your feedback about that?
So I think with a new business specifically, again, if you're looking at a local market, the first way to kind of build credibility before you move it on to LinkedIn would be, again, papers. You know, newspapers, and having especially like Financial Times or FT is able to run an article on your business kind of gives you credibility, which can then be shared onto your LinkedIn or your website, your blog post. So that kind of naturally builds credibility, and especially in a market like Sri Lanka where word of mouth is so powerful. I've found that building a personal credibility versus someone else referring you and saying that, oh, you know, she's great or her product is great works more. So having others talk about your new business or having others talk about your new brand and having that content also shared onto LinkedIn will also help in a local context, that is. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So another question from Charit. Charit said he's having 3 LinkedIn accounts and having for different purposes. But in my opinion, it's a gray hat profile maintaining. So LinkedIn is all about creating an authority and influencing the people, delivering the genuine result for the people who are looking for your services. But if you have multiple reasons and going against the rule, having multiple account under same name, it's against the rule of LinkedIn. So let me pass this question to Fawaz. Fawaz, would you like to take this question?
Yeah, again, this is connecting the last 2 questions together, because if you take LinkedIn as a platform, of course, yes, we promote brands, but I have personally always seen people connect to personalities than brand in a platform like LinkedIn. So it's personality driven. It's not really brand driven. So even if you take any corporate brand page or any profile pages for companies and brands, you still see the people associated under that is what they make the pages stronger and powerful. If you see XYZ people, this credibility listed under the company, or these are the people who work for the brand, is make the brand page very powerful. So same message carries forward for this particular 3 linked account, right? So, I mean, yes, you can have 3 different brands, but personally, you shouldn't have 3 different or personal profiles. It can be for multiple reasons. So if you take personality wise, because you are branded, your personality is branded. So you can publicly say what I do, right? So you can be associated with the multiple brands. So you can have brand page and you can say you are associated with these brands, and this brand page can list you down. So yes, I mean, it's brilliant that you have 25K connections for each brand pages. So which is collectively, let's say 75,000, but there can be mutual or the same. If you take the duplicates out, there's a great number of connections. But again, if you look back from a connection point of view, how many of that connections are connecting you as a loyal and authoritative, right? So it connects you back as a reality, right? So I think you can do much justice if you combine, but I believe you have specific reason why you have split it into 3. But I would personally look, I mean, with the limited context that I have on the chat, the information that I have, if it is, you can move certain things to be a brand page, and you can keep your identity stronger in a very growth in a multi-personality. That would be my take.
Yeah, thank you, Fawaz. I strongly assume the Charit, probably you are into affiliate marketing or maybe kind of a different niche basis, because the business that you're doing, probably they don't need to see your brand or your exact personality. So that's the reason maybe you are trying to promote that way, but it's not, that's completely fine, because this is your business, the way that you're doing, completely fine. But if you really want to position yourself through the LinkedIn as a person or as a brand, just make sure follow the LinkedIn rules, as well as monetize it in a way that you really want to do it. Because like Fawaz stressed, LinkedIn is all about a personal brand, and the people will start buying or maybe getting connected based on the way that they are looking at your profile and the way that you created an image about you. So think in that way, unless you are into affiliated or internet marketing activities. Good. So I think we can take one more question. So guys, if you have any other questions from live, of course, we can take one more. And there's another question from Atulya. She asked about, especially from Anderson. What I think Anderson, you already answered the content marketing, what kind of content that will work. And apart from that, guys, unless you have any questions, we can wrap up this session with a quick recap.
Can I add one thing to that last one with the 3 accounts with 25K connections each?
Please go ahead.
It's totally a normal pain point. LinkedIn only lets you have 30,000 connections too, so that's a real pain point, especially for recruiters. I know a lot of recruiters they'll do an account and then they'll want their people's email, and so just crank out connection requests and then remove a bunch of connections, and that's just part of what goes on LinkedIn. So he said that he's selling branding and digital designs, which is cool. I would just some insight from measuring KPIs as we go, just some insight with your current network. Usually we find about 5% of your network is bottom of funnel. So 5% of 25,000 people, assuming it's your target market, they're probably in the buying stage. And so I know that your question was more career, is it a good career idea? I just wanted to kind of give you my 2 cents there on, you're going to hit that 30,000 cap pretty soon. And so you probably already got a gold mine of connections there. I'm not sure which one you'd want to stick with, and you can't merge them. So just my 2 cents there on the sales side of things.
Perfect. Thank you. And one last question for Rehana. Rehana, as a woman, please share any special experience as a lady on this LinkedIn platform. On this platform, as a woman, what kind of experience that you have gone through so far?
So I think my advice would be obviously to keep your profile picture to your content quite professional, because that also can lead to, the purpose of your platform being misunderstood. So keep your picture quite professional and the content quite relevant, because I see a lot of, I have some female LinkedIn people that I follow, and I see it's very relevant content. And underneath that, I see comments also that are not irrelevant. So you lose the kind of purpose of LinkedIn. And the second thing around, I think, is important also to remember, LinkedIn is to create a link. So you create a link and ensure that conversation takes place in another platform, or an email or a phone conversation or face-to-face, to ensure that, your deal or your transaction or whatever the purpose it is closed, right? So you can't think of LinkedIn as an start and end to maybe closing a sale or raising investment. And the third thing, from a female point of view, I think I've found it a bit of a challenge. I guess I'm still maneuvering it around, because it's a whole bunch of professional people, and then when you have a startup entrepreneur female, navigation is a bit hard, right? So kind of setting the tone from day one has been a challenge, so that I ensure that I get good connections. Like I have about 600 people who have sent requests, and it's nothing relevant to my business or for my purpose. So kind of keeping content relevant has been important as a female entrepreneur, and then ensuring that I make the right connections and I don't kind of set an example to attract the wrong connections. So that has been key on LinkedIn.
Yeah, thank you, Rehana. And once again, Charit, thank you so much for briefing about your perspective and why are you having 3 different profiles. So I think Anderson, he already gave you a better clarity about that. I think it's time. So guys, again, so I wanna stress this point again. Learning, it's always good, but without implementing that stuff, it's a waste of time. So what we learned today from here, from the experts and the practical entrepreneurs, that you really need to focus. And we are here with a different purposes. Some of you are really keen about learning about LinkedIn and you want to implement or you want to become a master. And there are people, they really want to know what's happening around us. There are audience, they really want to know what our audience, our speakers are talking. And you have different needs and perspective because of the reason you joined us. And my final point for you guys, LinkedIn is a a perfect platform, if you have a right product, or you have a perfect goal. If you have a right goal, yes, you need to identify why you want to get into LinkedIn and what's your ultimate goal and what are you trying to achieve. Ask these 3 questions before you get into LinkedIn. Otherwise, there's no point of having that profile. Why? Because like I said before, this is the social media. This is not a typical social media platform where we can't just upload our selfie, but there are standard for the headset, there are standard for the background image, and of course there are standard for your about us page. So that we are learning through our, we have a dedicated community name called LinkedIn Mastermind Group on our Facebook page. So if possible, please try to join us, because we only allow the people who are really serious, people who are willing to learn and supporting each other. So learning, I mean, look at these people. So they learned and they are spending their time to share with us. Gratitude is the key to achieve anything and everything. With that, once again, thank you so much, guys. And especially Isaac, Rehana, Fawaz, guys, thank you so much for your valuable time, and whatever you shared is really worthy for us. And once again, for the participants, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Every Friday, I'm gonna meet you exactly 4:30 p.m. in Sri Lanka time. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
guys. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sharon.